Hello everybody and welcome back to another Wuthering Waves video. Yesterday we had a chance to react to the 3.1 the special program, and that was super exciting. New characters, new story, finally some answers about what's happening with the Exo Strider, and of course two of the most popular characters coming out in the next patch. However, because of the most popular characters, Wuthering Waves is feeling like we want to do a little more, and they're having a spending event, and understandably so, due to the experience in other video games. We are very apprehensive about how we feel about the spending event. However, a lot of people have already written it off and have not been willing to actually do the math and see how much this spending event costs. So as I say, I read it or I do it so you don't have to, and this time we are going to be covering the entire table of every price tier and how much you actually need to spend to get the good stuff out of this event, because it'll shock you, this is actually not as bad as you think it is. But before we get all that out of the way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and be sure so you don't miss any of the content that we do on this channel. And let's get started with the actual news rollout. So of course I will not start the price chart right away. There'll be timestamps available in the description if you want to go to specific parts to find out what you're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks for Wuthering Waves. But we will start off with just the free stuff, because hey, you can't beat the low price of free. So here's a quick summary here, but we're going to go scroll down and do all the details for you. So first off, about 3 weeks into the patch, on February 17th, we're going to be having a free 10 pull. So that's going to be around, I want to say, Luke's banner. So that's going to be available for you, and it's going to be handed out probably like in waves, but regardless, you know, if you're someone who's like, hey, I want to get Luke instead of Aemeath is going to be the first one on the banner, you can get that. Moving on from that, we are also getting the free story rover skin. So if you're someone who has been really wanting a rover skin, this is your opportunity to get that one as well. And that's all story tied, so you know it's not really a reward, it's just kind of there, right? Now moving on to this one, and this one I really want to make sure we clarify, because I've seen a ton of people see this in the live stream and think that it is another spending event. This is not a spending event, because let's be clear, number one, there is no listed expiration date on this situation right here, and I'll just go ahead and read it for itself. Complete Star Pass tasks to earn journey points. Accumulate a certain number of journey points to claim Star Pass gifts, including Lustrous Tide times 10, Sigil Concealed Starlight, Title Law of Stars, Radiant Tide, and Glider Aspect Cosmic Spindle. And of course, everybody wants that glider because it is perfectly synced up to Aemeath or any other character you'd like to put it on. But obviously, these rewards seem pretty juicy. Standard pull, limited pull, cool banners, heck yeah. But what people are worried about is that they didn't really describe what is actually needed to do for this event. And the reality is, when you see this number 10 out of 1,000, it seems like, wow, I'm gonna have to grind for this event like crazy. But no, read it here. All you have to do is log in, literally just play the game. And obviously people would have a problem with this if it was limited inside the patch of 3.1, because on an average a patch only lasts 6 weeks, and that's not going to make it to 1,000 points. But if you take a look closer in the fine print, there is no time limit on this. This is a new feature that Wuthering Waves would like to add to the game so that people are more incentivized to play, but also to give you some free rewards to reward you for your continued loyalties. So I honestly, this is pretty cool. It's going to take you a long time to get here, and you can accelerate the acquisition of getting your points by either pulling on the banner, which unless you're doing a no pull account, I mean, at some point you're gonna pull, man. This is counting all pulls, including standard ones, so it'll be pretty crazy if you somehow don't get something from this event. And additionally, if you're a trophy hunter and achievement hunter, you can also gain 2 points per every single trophy, and that's good for me because I have not focused on my trophies at all. So that's going to be super duper nice for me to farm these out like crazy. But moving on to the other free stuff, we also just have our standard every single patch. We always have this 5 standard pulls and 5 limited pulls, and they'll be handed out immediately as the patch starts, and that's all fine and dandy. Now we move on to the part. Now I have a full chart as I talked about, but I'm just going to quickly summarize you know, what we have here, so you have a visual name to an aid. But this is a weekly subscription, and that's weird because all of us are used to the monthly subscription, you know, $5.99 or $4.99 you know, a month, and we get a really reasonable amount of gems. But obviously the big thing is that you have to wait, and there's FOMO. It's like, oh, do I buy it now, do I buy it not? But weekly subscription is odd, and that is majority tied to this new item called the Transducer. Now the Transducer is something that people have been asking for for quite a lot of time. And of course, it is the ability to lock your echo substats or your gear stats, so that way you can guaranteed roll your good stuff when it comes to your echoes. And of course, you know, while it does take time and you can grind your echoes and gear as much as you want, of course there's always the low end of RNG where you just get screwed over and it really sucks. And ever since the introduction of the other substat, of the other stat modifier, people have been using them very consistently. And the transducer, again, we'll be talking about, you know, the effects and how you can use this more effectively in a different video, but in general it's very simple. One transducer means you can pick 2 substats on your echo. If you have 2 transducers, you can get 3, and if you have you have 3 transducers, you can get 4, and that is pretty reasonable. This is actually a system seen in Genshin Impact. It is designed more like that and not as much like Star Rail, where Star Rail has kind of gone back and forth on the self-modeling resin of sorts. But you know, regardless, it is good that this is added. And not to worry if you are a free-to-play player and concerned about how you will obtain these, because of course, as I said, the weekly subscription is going to give you 1 transducer, and that's not going to be a perfect substat gear set. That's only going to be 1. But when version 30.1 starts, you will be able to exchange twice for the Afterglow coral, which is the premium coral. So you are going to be spending some of your corals, which I know some of you might save so you can get a higher you know, wave band of a character. But I don't think 30 coral is not really that unreasonable, because you do get a good amount because you do have a lot of free pulls in this game. So at least for this site, you have a way to get it as a free-to-play player, and it's not luck behind something behind the battle pass, which, by the way, not told in here, but they really should add it to the battle pass, because the fact that it's not in the battle pass is insane. Like, this would be making the battle pass so much more valuable, and I'll talk about that you know, as we continue on. But now we get to the part where actual money is on the line. That's right, my friends, we do have the parts you know, that you need to spend, and there is a full spreadsheet, as I said, that we're going to be talking about you know, as the video goes on. But I do want to talk about my specific opinions when it comes to this one, because this is where I would say that people should really be channeling if they're upset with seeing, like, you know, new content that is required to be purchased. This is where you should channel your anger, and not really towards like the spending event, which you didn't even bother to calculate. So let's talk about this. So we have 3 motorbikes here, which are all you know, have some of the most popular characters in the game, and the prices are let's just say kind of excessive. Let's start at the bottom. We're gonna go back to the top and where it's really a problem. But right here we have both Shisa and Iuno, both a $10 set where you get all 3 pieces of the motorbike, and then you also get 300 Astrite to go along with it. You know, no Lunite here, but that's fine. It's $10. It's like, okay, that's fine. You really like this character, and I mean, let's be real here, people really like these characters, guys, come on. If they really want that, then let them be, right? The only hope for the future is that the bikes do not get replaced in some sort of way with the gameplay, because Wuthering Waves is always trying to innovate on exploration. But you know, as it stands, it does seem to be that the bikes are going to stay around for at least a little bit. Now, what's really egregious is that, you know, these are cool, right? This one for Aemeath, $24.99. I don't know about that one, cheap. That one is definitely pushing it a little bit when it comes to the thing, because, you know, when they do these bundles, obviously is about you the purchasee are going to like the character more than the actual gem amount, because it's 600 Astrites. I don't know if you know this, but 600 Astrites is only equal to about $10, and you are paying 15 extra just for the bike. And mind you, the bike is very nice. Not only do you get the skin tone, but you also get a chassis mod, which is going to make it so that not only do you have different rims, you can see right here we have the exhaust pipe, the wheels are white, everything has been changed about the model. But these purchases here are quite literally, I like the character and I do not care if I have to spend money for it. So just keep that in mind. And if you're someone who's trying to complete the event, which again we'll talk about, there's a very efficient way to complete for the spending event, these are definitely not the things you're going to be pining for. But hey, even I think about it, I'm like, hey, I do really like this character and I am going to be spending money on the game. I might consider it you know, at some point. But moving on from that, we have a bunch of the bundles. Now these, I'm sure that if you've been playing WoW for, you know, at least for the last year, you are familiar with these. They reset every 2 weeks or so. They're per banner and per every single cycle. So We'll talk about these when we're back on the sheet, but now we're on to the big cojones. That's right, my friends. The Moonlit Path version 3.1. Oh no. This is where people are super duper worried, because off rip you can already see, okay, there's some pulls here. Yeah, this is cool. Oh, we got an ornament, a skin, you know. Oh, hey, a standard weapon. Hey, that's pretty valuable. Nobody has a lot of standard weapons yet already. Oh, 5-star resonator. Ooh, that's a lot. And you're kind of wondering how much these things cost. Now thankfully, not only do they list all of these out, but they also have a wonderful chart. But we're not going to be using this paper here. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the actual presentation, where we do have the entire kit and caboodle. So here we go. Before you buy the Moonlit Path, so first off, let's just establish what the rewards are. So on this side of the screen, on my left side of the screen, this is kind of the stuff where you are not spending what is considered a lot of money in the gacha game. You have to remember, the reason we get to have so much good content every single 6 weeks is because there are whales or people who are low spenders who put money into the game. It's not that you need to be incentivized to pay for the game, because at the end of the day, it's a free game, and that's what makes it beautiful. But there are people who are putting money into the game, and ergo we get to have cool stuff. So let's be real here, right? On this side of the screen, this is all on the lower end of $30 to $40 and $50. So if you look at the page, you get one standard pull. If you got a monthly pass, it's one pull for the limited banners. If you got a little more than a monthly pass, I want to say these two are sitting around the $20 to $25 range. So maybe you just wanted like a motorbike or something, then you do get to have a cute little motorbike charm, and then you also get 2 weapon pools. And now this is where we're starting to push it, because this is starting to hit the $30 ballpark section. But this is the custom decal for Aemeath once more, which is kind of crazy that they wanted to release 2 decals related to Aemeath in the same patch. But I mean, hey, if you're not going to go for like the $25 motorbike skin, you can always get this one instead, so you can express that, hey, I really like this character. Now on the other side, this is obviously where it's going to get a little more pricey. We're moving from, you know, like little fish pond to dolphin tier. This is kind of where things go from dolphin to whale and so on. So this one, and I'll talk about it a little further as we do have the math in my next slide, you know, over here. But this one is definitely the one that I'm pretty happy to see. While it is definitely on the pricey side, the thing about the 5-star weapons, or the new standard 5-star weapons, is that people don't have them because obviously they were literally introduced 6 weeks ago. So even if you saved up gazillions of standard pulls, you're not going to have enough to actually get some of those weapons unless you were extremely high pity. I still don't have some of those weapons, and I'm still trying to get there. So this is a decent bonus. However, it is kind of sitting on the side of the $50 to $60, $70 price tag, so that's pretty high. And then we have the Transducer, bruh, that's literally a bruh moment. And then we have the last two. This is whale territory, $100, $150 and plus and beyond. And to be clear, I am not really talking about this thing, the cosmetic set, because it doesn't do anything. Because from here onwards, this is kind of the stuff that you care about, man. And why I kind of have a big deal, because people, you know, if you do the math, right, and I already have done it, we're going to talk about that, but if you do the math when it comes to the cosmetic set, yes, the cosmetic set costs $250 to $300. It's very expensive, but you also need to ask yourself at the purchasee, there is no thing that stops you from just stopping here. And we're going to get into all of that in just a moment. But that is kind of my big gripe when it comes to people critiquing this whole spending event, because here's the thing, dude, people already spend $100 on the game monthly. And what Wuthering Waves is trying to do here is give you a little bit more of incentive if you're a first-time purchaser, or if you are a current purchaser, because when you're not a first-time purchaser, you have already redacted your top-up bonus. And if you're not aware, these Lunite things right here all come with a double bonus when you first go. But of course, if you're a whale and you're spending you know, money on the game every month, it means that these bonuses are gone and they're not going to come back till next year. So not only are they trying to re-incentivize the whales, but also re-incentivize people who have never really done a purchase before on this game. So it's kind of besides the part that is right here, it is a way to give the players a win-win, and we can do the comparison to other games when it comes time. But here's the full breakdown of everything that will give you points. So this is the, on the left I have the full official version, no editing at all, and then on the side I have put together an edit which displays not only the price tier, but it also displays every single item that you get from these parts. And of course some of you are pretty familiar with it, and you can also see that some of these are, you know, tabbed as new. You should also note that, you know, anything tabbed as new on this side is a one-time purchase, and everything else is sort of the recurring purchases, and why whales can, you know, go crazy on the game and go for, you know, S6s, etc. But reality is, this purchase, this spending event is very controlled, and it is very controlled in the sense that obviously, just like how anything Kuro's Games does or any gacha company does, they're going to be very precise on how much you want to spend, or they want you to spend on the game to pay for what's worth it. And the most efficient solution, and I've put a lot of other solutions up here which we will talk about in just a moment, but in general it is going to cost you about $100 plus 50 and then an extra 99 cents or $5 to get to this part, being the 5-star selector. And that's pretty reasonable, and that seems crazy because it's like, oh man, I don't spend money on gacha games, like, you know, like I can't see myself doing that. The thing is, dude, is that when people do spend on gacha games, they will be willing to drop a little more than like $50 to $100 already, and it's not incredibly unreasonable to see that, you know, people who already do spend on these games will get all these kind of specific rewards here which matter the most, which once again, standard banner weapon, that's very important. These ones right here for rerolling your subset echoes, this one is definitely quite cringe, if I must say. I don't really agree with them only giving 3, because this only gives you 1 perfect gear piece, so that's a little weird. But this one right here is definitely the one I care about the most, and that is because, you know, if you do go, you know, at least part way into the $150 tier, which is, you know, an average of what people, you know, people who are able to spend on gacha games, this gives you a free character that you either may not own, or you can get a wave band to continue you know, vertical investing into them. I kind of already looked at it. Jinshi's wave band, kind of S1, kind of okay. Camellya, it's just all right, you know, they get some extra damage, they get some things that make their kit nice. Shorekeeper, however, is ridiculous. Shorekeeper gets to extend her buff timer by 10 seconds, then also makes it so that it increases the range. And lastly, when you cast your guaranteed crit skill, your intro skill, you do not reset your field. This is literally, you get to keep all the damage bonuses that you have from your field at all times, and that is insane. But yes, the general takeaway from this is that don't look at this crown. Why are you looking at the crown? You don't necessarily even care about it. These are the items that actually matter when it comes to purchasing the entire situation and the spending event. And of course, you know, the 2 most popular characters are coming out this patch. If I want to go ahead and flip back over to the banners just to remind you what is happening in this patch, but it is gonna be Aemeath, Chisa, Lupa. These 2 are extremely popular, and of course Luke, super popular. Galbrenna, also popular. This is a very high chance that someone is probably going to say, hey, I kind of want to put a little bit of money into the game because I want what I want. And that's not completely unreasonable for people to have that, you know, kind of assertion. And, you know, if you already used the top-up packs for some reason and you wanted to get something else, let's say you did want the motorbike skin, because the reality is, hey man, I don't judge what you put on your money. You're going to spend it how you want. If you were to purchase any of the motorbike skins, you will be able to whittle down you know, towards the actual marker of where you get the 980 to get your free character. Now, obviously doing the motorbike is not super efficient, as you can see here. So this one is going to be the voyage, this is the Aemeath set, this is the Yuno set, and then this is the Chisa set. This gets you to around 676 points. And then from there, you probably do need to make either the $100 purchase, or you can bisect it out, base it on the price tiers from here. There's also an option to go for the limited time content that is based off of, you know, patchly reset, but this is actually a little more inefficient in a way that it definitely does give you pulls, but it's not as efficient as just going for the 100 and the 50, because as you can see here, so we have every single limited collection piece, which is just, you get 5 pulls 400 Astrites, 15 pulls 500 Astrites, 5 weapon pulls and 400 Astrites, and then putting that all together in the price tier kind of just sits you at about $80 spent, and then you on total, if you want to actually hit the 980, which again is the goalpost, you will hit about 160. But that is not necessarily off from the other option being, you know, 155 being the cheapest option, or 151. There's also a thing that if you don't want to go for the 980 character, you could also just go for the weapon. All you would need is the $50 pack, and then any purchase that is $20, because anything that's $20 or above on the board will clear this 122 points remaining, and then you get a free standard weapon. Not bad at all. That's the thing about this spending event, and I see the argument a lot when people are talking about the entire situation, is that I hope I've been able to communicate you that the things that are available on the banner, besides the thing that costs literally $300, you have to be a mega whale to get there, everything else is ridiculously valuable. And if you want to talk about, because, you know, again, not comparison of the games, but for the sake of the argument, the most controversial spending event that recently happened was the Star Rail event. This one right here, the Cyrene bow event, $300 if you want this bow. And what do you get? Because remember, I play Star Rail. I might not make that much content on it, but I still play this game. Tears of Dreams, I get 1,000 of these every patch. I have so many of these and I don't use them. Self-modeling resin, okay, that's decent. Self-modeling resin's okay, it's kind of useful, but I also get one every single month, and more than one a month. So how valuable is this really? A hat for my character that doesn't do anything. Okay, neat. Another self-modeling resin. As I said, this is something you get multiple times in a month. You do not, like, it'll help you a little, but it's just one, man. A reroll dice is cute. I mean, shoot, man, but you know where I can get it from? I can just craft it. Like, it's definitely an expensive craft. It takes self-modeling resin, but it's really not that worth it to actually be able, you know, to do that when Star Rail requires 6 pieces of gear to get your characters functioning. And lastly, maybe there's some redeeming qualities here. The Golden Companion Spirit, me personally, I really like the idea, but it's also a massive problem that Star Rail, when they have Golden Companion Spirits, i.e. the shop where you can get characters and even some limited characters such as Ruanmei and Luocha, these characters have been sent to that place as a graveyard to die. Those characters like Luocha already had one foot out of the door when it came to the meta. Ruanmei, me personally speaking from a meta perspective, is a good character, but she is definitely getting replaced, especially with the fact that they just introduced the Dahlia and she is taking over her slot in the team. And last but not least, the bow, the biggest problem of the spending event of all. $300 to get to this spot. And what does the bow do? It changes literally nothing in the animations. It is so incredibly minor that you will almost never see this thing in combat. What is the point of spending $300 on this bow when it does basically nothing for you? And that's kind of the difference I want to point out, because people are comparing this to Honkai Star Rail's spending event, when you can clearly see the difference in value is that these things are either intentionally made by the game, such as the Golden Companion Spirit, which should be valuable, the ability to select a 5-star of their choice, but it's not, because they're intentionally devaluing that set of the market. When I flip over back to Wuthering Waves, you get, if you spend, like, you know, what they kind of expect a whale to do, you get a standard weapon. You get these transducers, not the best, but you get a free 5-star, not literally free, but you get a 5-star that comes with itself. And remember, this refunds itself. It costs you 12,800 Astrites to get to hard pity, and that's if you don't, and that's if you win or not the 50-50. If you don't win the 50-50, it takes 25,600. That is $300. And not only will you be able to have Astrites for the current banner, but you will also get any of these characters that you want without having to really do any pulling. That is really, really good. And again, if you're a mega whale, man, shoot, man, go for the crown. I'm not going to stop you. But the point is I'm trying to make is because it's incredibly annoying that people are constantly talking about, hey, this entire event actually spends like actually costs you $250 if you want to get all the content. There is no point in the thing that in the freaking event rules that says you need to go all the way if you want everything. There is nothing that tells you that you have to go that far. If you want, man, you can literally do a monthly pass, $5, and it is one pull. What, you get a little bonus, that's it. It's A spending event can become a problem when the value of what you're getting back is not worth it, like Star Rail. This being, you know, within line of how much people do already spend on the game is very reasonable. And that's why, here's the thing, man, at the end of the day, you know, you're not necessarily missing out on this stuff, because if you're not a whale, I don't think you care that much about the standard weapon, because the standard weapon is already obtainable by everyone. You're just getting ahead of the curve. This transducer literally only gives you just one good gear slot. This one right here, guess what, man? I like all these characters a lot, but I am not a vertical investor. Jinshi S1, not Cantarella, Camellya S1, there's no point. I would probably just get Shorekeeper and leave it at that. Like, I don't even think this character selection is necessarily the best, but guess what? They're popular characters. If someone wants to get them for the first time, this is their opportunity, while also getting the characters that are currently on banner. This is an incredibly reasonable spending event. And remember, you don't need to do this. If you don't do this, it will have zero effect on your gameplay, because the game is free. You get to explore and do whatever you want in the game as it is. And if making the game, you know, is pulling characters, look, man, either you either to be smart, save your primos, or you have to put in money. That's how it works, man. That's why it's just it's so rough, because we get to have so much content every single week, especially when it comes to you know, this animation. People jumping out of their seat, they're like, man, this animation made me cry, it's so beautiful. And guess what, man? That animation costs money. It's not that you need to it's not that you are forced to put money in the game because, you know, Kuro Games necessarily deserves it, quote unquote. But, you know, the people who do fund the game are going to people who either, you know, low spend like $5, or, you know, whale out like this. And because they're adding this thing for a spending event, it's really not as bad as people perceive it. And it really is a shame that people are trying to say that Kuro Games is actively betraying the community as a result. But yes, that is basically it. If you want to know, all of these graphics are going to be available on my YouTube page as well as Twitter and Reddit. So if you want to take a closer look, check out all the math. And also, if I ever made a mistake on the math, I can always make a correction in the comments. But that's pretty much my extended rant about this entire deal. And it was just, it's upsetting, because, you know, like, this game, like, you know, these people, like, you know, people clearly enjoy the game. The devs do what people want, but, you know, when they try to say, hey, you know, I'd like to make a little more money and incentivize people to make, you know, make a purchase, you know, people are like, oh, like, you know, they betrayed us, like, you know, like, it's over. Like, dude, betrayed who, man? You want these nice things, bro? Some people are gonna have to pay, man. The whales already do. And if the whales get stuff from this, hey, good for them, man. They feel like that, you know, their time is respected in the game. And anyone who wants to make a first time purchase, which it's not my first time purchase, by the way, I feel incentivized too, because I'm like, hey, you know, I'm gonna get a lot more value out of this than I typically would for whaling, so I'll give it a shot. And all it is $150. They are not asking you to pay $300. If you do that, that's your choice, man. It is what it is. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to my extended talk about this. It really sucks when people act this way, you know, about spending events, especially when they're not willing to actually analyze what is going on specifically inside these things, because this, again, this is completely normal. But that's enough yapping for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and so you don't miss out any of the Wuthering Waves content or anything else that we do over here. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.